Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Today's video is a little different because instead of making home decor items using Dollar Tree materials, I'm going to be making home decor items using stuff that you would find in your recycling bin for free. So bottles, newspaper, boxes, all sorts of goodies. I really hope that you enjoy this type of video. So if you do, please give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment below if you want to see more. And I hope that you stick around to this channel by hitting that subscribe button, because once you hit subscribe, we instantly become best friends.
Did we just become best friends? Yup!
And please hit that notification bell. YouTube may or may not let you know when I post a video, but if they don't, follow me on Instagram. So let's go ahead and get started. For the first craft, I'm going to start with bottles that I really like the shape of. I really love the RumChata bottle, and these are just bottles of sauces that I purchased. Now, I'm going to remove the label as best I can, and whatever is left over, I'm going to remove with some Goo Gone, and then I'm going to make sure that I wash this really well with soap and water, just to remove the Goo Gone because it is oily and paint will not stick to it. For the liquor bottle, I'm just going to remove the pour spout on the inside. This is really easy to remove. Just use a set of pliers or side cutters and push it out, and then make sure you wash it. And now I'm going to spray paint the bottle. This is a spray paint that I used for these two, and we're going to work on these two first. You can leave it as is, but I really wanted to make this look aged, so with some acrylic paint in the shade Pavement, I mixed it with a little bit of water, and then I am going to mix it up and use this to give it a really dingy aged look. I also wanted to add some dimension, so I just blotted off the paint and then blotted it onto the bottle, wiping it down with a napkin once I got a good amount on. And I'm going to keep doing this until it looks textured. Now you can add as much or as little as you'd like. The more you add, the more it looks like brass. And when you're done, you can add some greenery to the top or some candles, whatever you'd like, but you have some really cool vintage looking vases. For the next bottle, I decided to use this spray paint in Warm Caramel. I have been obsessed with everything terracotta lately, and I thought that this was the perfect shape for it. So I gave it one very generous coat. This does cover really well. And then when I was done, I added some beads to the top, but of course you can stencil on design or leave it as is, and some greenery, and I love the look. For this next one, I used these really expired spice bottles. I'm going to go ahead and remove the label and wipe it down with some Goo Gone. Make sure that I wash everything with soap and water till it's nice and clear. Now with some E6000, and I will leave the link below for that key, I am going to just seal off the top by adding some E6000 and screwing the cap back on, and also doing the same thing to the openings. Now, this is just going to keep it from opening when you have other things attached to it. You can also add some beads or anything to the inside to make it heavier. Mine was already pretty heavy, and what I'm adding to the top and bottom is going to be heavy. So for the bottom, I'm using these trinket trays, which I hauled a long time ago from Dollar Tree. But you can, of course, use a jar lid or any type of lid or saucer. I'm going to use a combination of E6000 and hot glue to secure it right in the center, and I'm going to let it dry really well. So you can either paint this with chalk paint or you can spray paint it. I went with spray painting, and once it was spray painted, I went in with some brown paint, which I had watered down just a tiny bit, and I'm going to dry brush it on there. You don't have to do this, but I really wanted this to look like it was wood, so aging it a little bit would kind of give me that look. Now for the top, I'm going to use these candle lids, which I have been saving forever. I have 2 of them, and I'm going to remove the little silicone part on the inside, or the plastic part, whatever that is. And now that is what I'm going to use for the top. So I'm going to add some hot glue in case I change my mind and I don't want to use this wood for this. But you can use a combination of hot glue and E6000, and I'm going to center it, and once they are in place, I'm going to dry brush that using some white acrylic paint. You don't have to do this, but I wanted it to match a little better with the bottom piece. Once I was done, I had a really cool and unique set of candle holders for absolutely free. For my next craft, I'm going to be using some newspaper. You don't really need enough, so whatever comes in the regular mail as promotion is enough. I'm going to fold this into 4 pieces, and I'm going to try and do this as equal as possible, and then I'm going to cut them down into strips. Now that I have a ton of strips cut out, I'm going to extend the strip to make one long piece of rope by using some glue and then gluing another piece. And I'm going to do this to 3 different pieces to be able to create a braid. Now, I don't recommend that you go too long because then it makes it a little bit harder to braid, but definitely long enough to where you don't have to stop and go throughout your project too often. Now you're going to grab each one of your pieces and you're just going to twist it up so that it's nice and kind of balled up. And you're going to do this to all 3 of your pieces. This is going to make it a lot easier to braid when you're done. Next, secure the end of the 3 pieces and start braiding. This did take me a bit because I did make this a little too long, but if you wanted to go ahead and make them shorter, you can always do that. So when I get to the end, I am just going to cut that down a bit and then secure it with a little bit of glue and clamp it together. Now we're going to move on to the box. This is just a box I get at the grocery store. Whenever I shop at Aldi, I always use these to help me take stuff to my car. So this is what I'm going to be using. For the inside, you can use newspaper, but I have this really pretty cardstock. So I'm just going to cut it down and I'm going to use that as a lining. But if you don't have this, you can always use newspaper or you can print something out. I'm going to use some Mod Podge to secure that down and then add some Mod Podge to the top. If a little bit of the box is exposed, that's okay because we are going to be covering that up with our rope. So I'm going to start right here, and the reason I start there is because I'm pretty sure that is where I'm going to place my handles. So if it does look wonky at the end, the handle will at least cover it, and then I'm going to work my way all the way around. Now, if your rope that you created isn't long enough, just unravel the end and glue more strips to each of those pieces, twist it up, and then start braiding all over again. This is what you can do if you don't want to start your rope really long initially. Just every time you get to the end, unravel the end, and then keep braiding. So keep working your way around, and to cover the inside, I just added more of my braided rope as well. I added 2 braided ropes to the side using the exact same method and covering up where I started, and this is what it looks like. For this next one and my absolute favorite one, I'm going to be recycling these wee yogurt bottles. The label is actually a lot easier to remove than you think. You can use some Goo Gone to wipe that off. Once it's off, make sure that you wash it so that it is not oily. But all you have to do is peel off a little corner and it'll come right off. Then I went online and looked for henna patterns, mandalas, whatever I could get my hands on, and I printed it on regular paper. This is the exact same tutorial I did 3 years ago using Dollar Tree bottles, so nothing has changed except for the bottle itself. I'm going to spray the back with a little bit of water to relax the paper and so that it sticks to the inside of the bottle. To trace out my design, I will be using the same paint I did back then. They still sell it, but without the nozzle, and I'll link it below. I'll also link one that brings the nozzle. I'm going to make sure that I start from left to right so that I don't smudge my design. And whatever is too small, I just replace with a little dot rather than trying out the entire design. Make sure that you're constantly cleaning the tip so that your lines are nice and crisp. Take your time with this, and if you want to freehand a few, you definitely can, which is what I eventually ended up doing. Now to tint these, it's really easy. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take some Mod Podge or even some white PVA glue, and you're gonna add a pretty generous amount to a bowl, a cup, whatever you have. You're gonna water it down just a bit, and then with some food coloring, you're gonna mix it until you get the color that you want. Keep in mind that it does end up a lot lighter when it dries. I pour it directly into the bottle and then I start swirling it around. You don't want it too watery, but you also don't want it too thick. So that I don't have product go to waste, I pour it into another bottle as well, and I just keep pouring it back and forth until I cover at least 2 bottles with that mixture. For the other bottles, I just grabbed green and mixed it in with that same blue. I just didn't want to waste the Mod Podge that was left, so I added more Mod Podge, mixed that up, and did the same thing to the other 2 bottles. I did different shades of blue and green, but of course you can do whatever you want. You're going to place these face down on aluminum foil for about an hour, and then you're going to clean off the lip and take them to your oven. Now, when you put them in the oven, you are going to put them face up for 200 degrees, and you're going to keep them there for at least half an hour or until they're completely dry. Now, some of them are going to have little areas where the paint dripped a little. If the edge or the lip has a little bit too much color, then what you can do is you can grab a little bit of acetone and clean it off. You're going to put 100% acetone on a cotton ball and you're going to start to wipe off the color that you don't like. Once it becomes too saturated, then you will need a new one or it will get sticky. And now you can add your tea lights or whatever you want to the inside, and you have some really, really cool Moroccan style lanterns. So I really hope that you enjoyed these recycled, upcycled DIYs. If you did, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. And as usual, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I will hopefully see you on the next one.